The city was alive with its usual hustle, the midday sun casting long shadows on the pavement as I navigated through the crowded streets. My heart raced, not from the brisk pace at which I moved, but from the anticipation of the conversation that awaited. I cursed silently, regretting my inability to manage time more efficiently. Jessica was not one to wait patiently, and today of all days, I couldn't afford to start on the wrong foot. I pushed open the door to Le Jardin, the restaurant's name etched elegantly in gold against the glass. The cool air inside was a welcome relief from the summer heat. Scanning the room, I found Jessica seated at our usual spot, a secluded table by the window. Her eyes met mine, a mix of irritation and relief evident in her gaze. "I'm so sorry, Jess. The traffic was a nightmare, and then I couldn't find my phone," I said, my words tumbling out as I took my seat, hoping to diffuse any tension. Jessica's expression softened, a small smile playing on her lips. "It's fine, Claire. I know how chaotic your mornings can be, but you're here now, and that's what matters." I sighed in relief, grateful for her understanding. We exchanged pleasantries, catching up on the trivialities of our day-to-day lives. Yet, beneath the surface of our conversation, a sense of unease lingered. I knew I had to broach the subject that had been consuming my thoughts for weeks. "So, Jess," I began, my voice hesitant, "I've been thinking a lot about what we discussed last time." Jessica's smile faltered, her eyes narrowing slightly as she leaned in. "You mean about Tom and your plan?" I nodded, my heart pounding. "Yes, that. I've thought it through, and I believe it's the right thing to do, for me." Jessica let out a long sigh, her fork idly playing with the salad on her plate. "Claire, we've been over this. It's risky, and the consequences could be devastating. Are you sure you've considered everything?" I met her gaze, my resolve steeling. "I have, Jess, and I've decided. I need this. I need more than what my life currently offers, but I can't do it without your help." Jessica leaned back, her eyes searching mine for a moment that felt like an eternity. "Claire, this isn't just about what you need. It's about what's right. Have you thought about Tom? About what this could do to him?" The mention of Tom's name sent a pang of guilt through me, but I pushed it aside. "Tom won't find out, not if we're careful. And that's why I need you, Jess. I need you to cover for me." The weight of my request hung between us, a tangible tension that threatened to break the bond we had built over years of friendship. Jessica was more than a friend. She was my confidant, my ally. But in this moment, I was asking her to be an accomplice to my betrayal. I need to think about this, Claire," Jessica finally said, her voice barely above a whisper. "This is a lot to ask." I reached across the table, taking her hand in mine. "I know it is, Jess, and I wouldn't ask if I didn't truly believe it was necessary. Please, just think about it." As we sat there, the bustling restaurant around us fading into the background, I realized the gravity of what I was proposing. I was on the brink of stepping into a world of deceit and betrayal, and I was dragging Jessica along with me. But the desire for something more, something exhilarating and forbidden, was too strong to ignore. I'd only hoped Jessica would understand and stand by me, as she always had. The air between us was charged with an unspoken tension as we moved on from the topic, focusing instead on the menu and the wine selection. Yet, the undercurrent of my impending request lingered, casting a shadow over our attempts at casual conversation. Jessica seemed distant, her laughter a little too forced, her smiles a tad too fleeting. I knew I had unsettled her, but the plan that had been taking shape in my mind over the past few weeks felt like a siren call I couldn't resist. As our meals arrived, the conversation naturally ebbed, allowing me a moment to gather my thoughts. The clinking of cutlery and the murmur of conversations around us provided a backdrop to the turmoil brewing within me. I knew what I had to do, yet the weight of it felt heavier with each passing moment. "Jess," I started, breaking the lull between us. "About what I mentioned earlier, I've been feeling trapped, like I'm living a life that's been scripted for me, with no room for deviation. Tom's great, but there's this whole world out there I feel I'm missing out on." Jessica set her fork down, her eyes locking onto mine with an intensity that made my heart skip a beat. "Claire, I understand feeling trapped, I really do. But this, stepping out on Tom while he's away, it's not just a deviation, it's a betrayal." I could hear the judgment in her voice, thinly veiled behind a layer of concern. It stung, but I pushed forward. "I know how it sounds, Jess, but it's not just about the thrill. It's about feeling alive, feeling wanted in a way that I haven't in years. And I've met someone who makes me feel that way. Jessica's expression shifted from concern to shock. You've already met someone. Claire, this is serious. You're not just contemplating an affair. You're already halfway there. The accusation in her voice was a slap to my conscience, but I was too far gone to turn back now. Yes, I've met someone, and it's not just a fling. There's something real there, but I need to explore it discreetly. Tom can never know. And what about me, Claire? Where do I fit into this plan of yours? Jessica's voice was a mix of hurt and anger, a combination I had feared but hoped to avoid. I reached across the table, trying to bridge the gap my words had created. You're my best friend, Jess. I need you to cover for me, to provide an alibi if Tom gets suspicious. I wouldn't ask if I had any other choice. Jessica pulled away, her eyes searching mine as if looking for the friend that she thought she knew. And if I say no? What then? Are you prepared to throw away everything you have with Tom, everything we have for this? Her words were a cold shower, sobering and sharp. I don't want to lose you, Jess, or Tom, but I can't ignore how I feel. I'm asking you, as my friend, to help me navigate this. I need you. The silence that followed was deafening. Jessica looked away, her gaze settling on the bustling street outside the window. I could see the conflict playing out behind her eyes, the battle between loyalty and condemnation. Let me think about it, Claire, she finally said, her voice barely above a whisper. I can't promise anything. This goes against everything I believe in, but I can see you've made up your mind. Just give me some time. As we finished our meal in relative silence, the chasm between us felt wider than ever. I had laid my cards on the table, exposing the darkest parts of my desires. Jessica, the keeper of my secrets and the anchor to my moral compass, was now adrift in a sea of uncertainty. The proposition had been made, and the outcome, for now, hung in the balance. In the days after our clandestine meeting at Le Jardin, a heavy silence settled over us. My attempts to reach Jessica were met with the cold embrace of unanswered text and voicemails echoing into nothingness. Her absence carved a deep, echoing chasm, a stark reminder of the choices I had made. Yet, even as the distance between us grew, my determination remained unshaken. The allure of the forbidden, the seductive promise of the unknown, it was a heady brew, drawing me further from the familiar shores of my existence. Then, as twilight wrapped its arms around the city, my phone sprang to life, Jessica's name cutting through the silence. My heart danced a frantic beat, tangled in a web of anticipation and dread. Jess, where have you been? I've been out of my mind with worry. I rushed out, barely giving her a chance to speak. Claire, it's time we had a serious conversation, came Jessica's reply, her voice stripped of its usual warmth. Meet me at the Old Oak in an hour, okay? Her words brooked no argument. Yes, I'll be there. Jess, but the line was already dead. The Old Oak was a stark departure from the vibrant ambience of Le Jardin. It was a place of shadows and whispers where secrets seemed to linger in the air. I found Jessica secluded in a booth, her presence as distant as a winter's moon, a glass of wine her only companion. Jess, I'm so glad you agreed to see me. I felt so lost without you, I said, sliding into the booth to face her. Claire, let's skip the formalities. I've made my decision, she said, her eyes locking onto mine with an intensity that made me flinch. And I breathed out, the word heavy with unspoken fears. I'll help you, she whispered, her voice a fragile thread of sound. Not because I condone your choices, but because I can't watch you unravel without offering some form of guidance. Grasping for her hand, I tried to convey my relief, my gratitude. Jess, thank you. You have no idea what this means to me. But she withdrew her hand, her expression steely. Don't thank me yet, Claire. You might not appreciate what I have to say. I settled back, bracing myself. I'm all ears. First off, we end this the second it risks coming to light. I refuse to be pulled under by your decisions. Secondly, you need to really consider the repercussions of what you're doing. Not just for Tom, but for all of us, yourself included. Her words were a cold splash of reality, a reminder of the precipice on which I teetered. I get it, Jess. I do. Do you, Claire? Because it looks to me like you're about to leap without looking at the fall below. Her analogy hit home, the gravity of my actions laying bare before me. I know how it looks, but I feel so cornered, Jess. I'm searching for a way out, a breath of freedom. Freedom at what cost, player? You're gambling with more than just your marriage. You're putting our friendship, your very soul on the line. Be careful. The path you're walking is more perilous than you know. Her cautionary words lingered long after our meeting ended. Jessica's reluctant agreement to help was overshadowed by her stark warnings. The thrill that once spurred me on now mixed with a deep-seated fear, a stark reminder of the delicate balance between seeking liberation and flirting with ruin. The days following our dinner were filled with a tense silence. Jessica hadn't reached out, and I found myself caught in a web of my own making, second-guessing my decisions at every turn. The anticipation of her response was a constant shadow, darkening even the brightest moments. It was late afternoon when my phone finally buzzed with a message from Jessica. "Meet me at the old cafe. We need to talk." The brevity of her message sent a wave of anxiety through me. I knew this conversation would set the course for everything that followed. The cafe was quiet, a stark contrast to the turmoil I felt inside. Jessica was already there, a steaming cup of coffee in front of her, her expression unreadable. "Jess, I began, but she held up a hand to stop me. "Before you say anything, Claire, I need you to listen to a story. A cautionary tale, if you will," Jessica said, her voice steady but laced with an undercurrent of emotion. I nodded, unsure of where this was leading, but willing to hear her out. Years ago, I knew someone who found themselves in a situation not unlike yours. Trapped in a marriage that felt more like a prison than a partnership, they sought solace in the arms of another. It started as a whisper of what could be, a promise of escape from the mundane. But what followed was anything but the freedom they had envisioned. Her words hung in the air, a prelude to a story I wasn't sure I wanted to hear but knew I needed to. This person, let's call them Alex, believed they could control the narrative, keep their life with their spouse separate from the one they were building with their lover. But secrets have a way of growing, of taking on a life of their own. Alex's spouse, Sam, discovered the affair, not through a confession, but through the cold, hard evidence of betrayal. Jessica paused, taking a sip of her coffee, allowing the weight of her words to sink in. Sam was devastated, of course, but the fallout was far worse than just a broken heart. There were legal battles, a fight for custody of their child, and the disintegration of mutual friendships. The affair didn't just destroy a marriage, it fractured an entire life. Alex lost everything. The lover, who had promised a future together, walked away at the first sign of trouble, leaving Alex to pick up the pieces of a life shattered by choices they couldn't take back. I felt a cold shiver run down my spine, the parallels between Alex's story and my own intentions too close for comfort. "Jess, I had no idea," I stammered, the certainty of my desires now clouded with doubt. Jessica reached across the table, her hand finding mine. "I'm telling you this, Claire, not to scare you, but to make you understand the gravity of what you're considering. You believe you're seeking happiness, but at what cost? Is it worth the destruction of everything you've built with Tom?" Her question was a dagger to my heart, the answer something I feared to confront. The story of Alex, a mirror to my potential future, served as a stark warning. Jessica's unsolicited tale had unveiled the harsh reality of the path I was considering, forcing me to question not only my desires, but the very essence of what I believe happiness to be. "Thank you, Jess. I need to think about this." "Really think about it," I whispered, the conviction in my voice replaced with a tremble of uncertainty. Jessica gave my hand a gentle squeeze. "That's all I ask, Claire. Think about what you have, what you stand to lose. I'll be here, no matter what you decide. But remember, some choices can't be undone." As I left the cafe, the weight of Jessica's words and the tale of Alex's downfall hung heavy on my shoulders. The road ahead was unclear, but for the first time, I began to question if the journey was one worth taking at all. The night was restless, a tempest of thoughts and emotions swirling within me. Jessica's story had struck a chord, resonating with fears and doubts I had tried so hard to bury. As dawn broke, painting the sky in hues of orange and pink, I found myself sitting at the kitchen table, a lone figure amidst the silence. Tom walked in, the lines of worry etched deeply into his face. He poured himself a cup of coffee before noticing me sitting there. "Couldn't sleep either?" he asked, his voice tinged with concern. I shook my head, the weight of my thoughts too heavy to articulate. "Tom, we need to talk," I finally managed, the words feeling like shards of glass in my mouth. He sat down opposite me, his eyes searching mine for clues to the turmoil within. What's going on, Claire? You've been distant, lost in thought. Is there? Is there someone else? The directness of his question caught me off guard, a piercing arrow to the heart of the matter. No, it's not like that. I've been unhappy, Tom. Lost. I thought maybe there was an easy way out, a quick fix to our problems. But I was wrong. Tom's expression softened, the hurt in his eyes making way for understanding. I felt it too, Claire. The distance between us. I just didn't know how to bridge it. I thought giving you space was what you needed. I reached for his hand, a gesture of connection in our shared isolation. I thought so too, but space was the last thing we needed. Jess told me a story yesterday about someone who tried to find happiness outside their marriage. It ended in disaster, Tom. It made me realize that running away from our problems won't solve them. It'll only create new ones. Tom squeezed my hand, a silent acknowledgement of the pain and realization in my words. So where do we go from here? Are we too broken to fix this? I pondered his question, the fear of the unknown a looming specter between us. I don't know if we're broken, Tom, but I do know we've been ignoring the cracks for too long. Maybe it's time we face them together. Try to mend what's been damaged before it's too late. Tom nodded, a determined resolve taking shape in his eyes. I want that, Claire. I want us to work through this together. But it's going to take effort, honesty, and a lot of hard conversations. I know, I agreed. The path ahead daunting yet necessary. But I think we owe it to ourselves and to what we've built over the years to try. As we sat there, hands clasped, the first rays of sunlight streamed through the window, casting a warm glow over us. It felt like a sign, a promise of a new beginning, should we have the courage to face it. The reflections of regret that had clouded my vision were starting to clear, replaced by the glimmer of hope. Hope that with time, understanding, and love, we could rebuild the foundation of our marriage, stronger and more resilient than before. This chapter of our lives was far from over, but for the first time in a long while, I felt ready to turn the page, together with Tom, and start anew. The days that followed were a testament to our commitment to change. Tom and I embarked on a journey of rediscovery, not just of each other, but of ourselves as well. It was as if we were peeling back layers of neglect, each layer revealing a forgotten truth or a buried grievance. One evening, as we sat in the living room surrounded by old photo albums and memories, Tom broke the silence that had settled between us. You know, looking at these pictures, I realize how much we've changed, how far we've drifted from those two people who were so in love. I looked up from an album, a snapshot in my hand of us on our honeymoon. The joy in our eyes was unmistakable. We were so young, so sure of our future. I said, a twinge of sadness in my voice. Tom moved closer, his shoulder brushing against mine. We faced a lot since then. Challenges that I think we let define us, rather than us defining how we faced them. I nodded, placing the photo down. We stopped being a team. Started facing things alone, even when we were together. It doesn't have to be that way, Claire. I don't want it to be that way, Tom said earnestly, his gaze holding mine. Neither do I whispered, a surge of hope fueling my spirits. But wishing for change isn't enough. We need to act to make those changes happen. Tom took my hands in his resolve clear. Then let's make a pact, right here, right now, to communicate even when it's hard, to support each other even when we're struggling, to find joy in the little things, and to never lose sight of what we have. I felt a smile spread across my face, the first genuine one in what felt like ages. I like the sound of that. A pact to fight for us, to not give up when things get tough. We've been through too much to let it go without a fight, Tom said, a determined glint in his eye. And we're stronger than we give ourselves credit for, I added, feeling a strength within me that had been dormant for too long. We spent the rest of the evening talking, really talking, about our fears, our dreams, and everything in between. It was as if a dam had been broken, and all the words we've been holding back were finally free to flow. As we went to bed that night, Tom pulled me close, his voice a soft murmur in the darkness. I love you, Claire, more than you know, and I'm going to prove it to you every day. I nestled into his embrace, a sense of peace settling over me. I love you too, Tom, and I believe us. We're going to make it through this, stronger than ever. Our pact was more than just words. It was a promise to ourselves and to each other. A vow to rebuild our relationship on a foundation of trust, respect, and unwavering love. It wouldn't be easy, and there would undoubtedly be setbacks along the way. But with our newfound resolve, I knew we were ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead, together. The morning light filtered through the curtains, casting a warm glow over the room. Tom was already up, the sound of clattering dishes echoing from the kitchen. I stretched, the remnants of last night's conversation still swirling in my mind. We had made a pact, a solemn vow to navigate the turbulent waters of our relationship with renewed commitment and understanding. Yet, as the new day dawned, the weight of our promise felt both exhilarating and daunting. I made my way to the kitchen, where Tom was busy preparing breakfast. The sight of him, so engrossed in the simple task, brought a smile to my face. "Good morning," I said, my voice still heavy with sleep. Tom looked up, a grin spreading across his face. "Morning. I thought I'd surprise you with breakfast in bed, but since you're here, you can keep me company while I finish up." The aroma of coffee filled the air, a comforting scent that seemed to wrap around us like a warm embrace. "It smells wonderful," I replied, taking a seat at the kitchen island. "You know, I can't remember the last time we did this. Just sat down and had breakfast together without rushing off somewhere." "Yeah, it's been too long," Tom agreed, placing a plate of scrambled eggs and toast in front of me. "We've been so caught up in our own worlds that we forgot to make time for moments like these." I nodded, taking a bite of the toast. "We drew a line last night, didn't we? A line that marks the start of something new, something better." Tom poured 2 cups of coffee, his gaze meeting mine. "We did, and I meant every word I said. I know it won't be easy, but I'm willing to do whatever it takes to make this work. To make us work." His sincerity was palpable, and it filled me with a sense of hope. "I believe you, Tom, and I want you to know that I'm just as committed to this as you are. We've both made mistakes, but I believe we can learn from them and grow stronger." We sipped our coffee in silence, the comfortable kind that spoke of understanding and shared resolve. After a moment, Tom reached across the table, his hand finding mine. "Let's make a promise, Claire, to never let the sun set on our anger, to always talk things through, no matter how hard it might seem." I squeezed his hand in response, the gesture sealing our promise. "I promise, Tom, and I'll hold you to that promise too. We're in this together, for better or worse." The rest of the morning passed in a blur of laughter and shared stories, a reminder of the connection that had brought us together in the first place. As we cleared the dishes and made plans for the day, I couldn't help but feel a sense of optimism about the future. Our pact had drawn a line, a demarcation between the past and the future we were determined to build. It wouldn't be without its challenges, but with open hearts and minds, we were ready to face them together. And in that moment, I knew that no matter what lay ahead, our love would be our guiding light, unwavering and true.